Welcome back to Mondays with Mom, the podcast where my mom, Leah,
Hi.
and I, Jo, dive into her stories, experiences, and the lessons she's hoping I finally take to heart. My mom has always dreamed of turning her life into a book or a movie, and this podcast is our way of making that dream come true, one episode at a time. Right, Mom?
Thanks for that, Joey.
So, Mom, what are we talking about this week?
Well, there was an incident fairly recently that made a bit of an impression on me in Athens. This incident took place, and I think it made an impression on a lot of Greek people. And basically, there was this dear old, let's not call him dear, let's just call him old, 89-year-old soul that decided to take this very antiquated shotgun into a government department. It was basically a social security office, or for all our Greek people, it was an AFCA. And he went in there and literally just started shooting.
Oh, my word.
He was a very bad aim, thank goodness.
Thank goodness, yeah.
That he shot an employee in the foot, and I think he might have grazed a few people because he was just shooting, but he was shooting. He could have probably shot himself in the foot as well because apparently he was shooting on the ground and the bullets were ricocheting. Anyway.
That's so scary.
I mean, the people there were petrified. There was panic, screaming. People were ducking, trying to leave the building. And when he finished shooting, he calmly walked out, hailed a taxi, got into the taxi. I think he concealed his weapon, though. I don't think the taxi driver kind of took him with a weapon, although I suspect had he, the taxi driver wouldn't have had much of a choice.
Yeah, oh my word.
But I think he was wearing like a overcoat of sorts, and he concealed the shotgun in there, got into the taxi, drove for 5 kilometers to the center of Athens, to the magistrate's court, where he calmly walked in there as well, because there are no security checks, no metal detectors. You can just walk in.
Crazy.
So he walked in there and started firing there again. He injured, thank goodness, not grievously, but he did injure about 5 people.
That's so hectic.
He then dropped his antiquated shotgun on the ground, realizing that he's actually not going to manage to do any real damage with it, and apparently dropped 3 envelopes out of his coat and told people in the office that read these to find out why I did what I did. And apparently in the first envelope was his application for a pension in Greece, which was denied.
Oh my word, it's like the Greek version of 13 Reasons Why. If anyone who knows that show, they'll get the reference.
That is a bit obscene, but
It is
yes.
obscene, yeah.
Anyway, apparently later on, there was a major police manhunt, which a lot of people were laughing because it's really amusing that police were on this manhunt to find this 89-year-old man. I mean, how quickly can he move? And yet this guy managed to move quickly. They caught him having bought a ticket to board a ferry to Italy.
Oh my word, okay.
So it just reminded me of a similar incident that I've been through. Mm-hmm. In fact, 2 incidents that I also now I can laugh about, but at the time didn't seem quite so amusing.
Okay.
So I have mentioned before in previous podcasts that I worked as a physiotherapist in a hospital called Natalspruit Hospital, which was a government hospital. It was a township hospital on the outskirts of Johannesburg. And for people that haven't listened to other episodes, basically townships were these urban settlement areas that were placed outside of major cities and generally were there in order to keep racial segregation.
Yeah.
So in these townships, you would find there would either be black people, colored people, or Indian people, and white people generally were not allowed in there. And the time I worked at Natalspruit Hospital was a period of major political upheaval and instability.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of violence happening around us, and there were a lot of gunshots, and we could hear missiles flying. And as I mentioned before, I was quite used to hearing sounds of AK-47s and hearing sounds of R1 rifles. Mm-hmm. But those were the gunshots that I was accustomed to.
Okay.
So one day while I was at work, and my work in those days was looking after the quadriplegics. Mm-hmm. And I was given approximately 16 people who were paralyzed from the neck down, and I needed to look after all of them in a very short time frame.
Okay.
And what would happen is we had physiotherapy assistants, and they would come in and help get these people out of their wheelchairs and put them on these beds, if you want to call it beds, that we called plinths.
Okay.
But basically these beds were these huge wooden structures, a big wooden square that had a padded surface on top where people could lie down comfortably or sit on comfortably. And they were huge.
Okay,
They were
interesting.
quite high off the ground, not too high, maybe a little bit less than desk height.
Okay.
And they were huge, so that on one of these, we only had 2 of these in the room, and most people could fit on the 2 of these with quite a few spaces between them. And then we had one standing frame. And what this was is a metal structure, almost like these things that you see in the gyms that can flip you backwards and people kind of hang upside down.
Oh, okay.
And what this was substantially wider than that and had quite a few straps, and it had a bottom piece for people's feet. And what you would do is put someone who was paralyzed in it and strap their knees down, strap their hips down, strap their chest, so that, and then bring them slowly into an upright position so they could still have the ability to be standing.
Okay.
So that they could still have some weight bearing, which is quite important.
Yeah.
I mean, you need this especially for bone health. So I had this room, and the assistants would help me every day. I would rotate. There would be a different person that got the opportunity to stand up, and they were quite strapped in, and everyone else was put on these beds. And I was on my own with some assistants who would leave me once everyone had been put in place.
So they were only there to help you put the people in place, and then it was just up to you to strap everyone in to do things.
Well, I didn't have to strap everyone in because they were on the mats. We would be doing exercises together, but what they would be doing is then leaving me and possibly going to someone else in the physio department to help them maybe get people who had had strokes out of their wheelchairs.
Okay.
So they would be running around between all the various physiotherapists helping.
Interesting work that you did.
It was very, very interesting, extremely rewarding, also soul-destroying at the same time to have so many people that were poverty-stricken and paralyzed at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And people had completely different levels of paralysis. So you would find there were some people who could actually maneuver themselves into a sitting position. Mm-hmm. There were some people who actually could do nothing unless you put them up. And it was quite a challenging thing. I must admit, it taught me a lot, having to deal with between 12 and 16 people simultaneously, and it was just me. I remember the very first time I tried to do this, I kind of paid all the attention to one person, and everyone else in the room was looking at me, and my supervisor came in and said, "Listen, Leah, this isn't exactly the way we work here. You need to learn to work without having all your resources." And within a short period of time, I remember I had done things like put up a list of exercises up on this huge blackboard that was in the room, and I would get people to call out. They could choose which exercise they want, and they would call out. We would do things like, for anyone that could handle it, we would strap weights on their
arms?
On their arms, because they couldn't actually hold the weight in their hands. And then they would be bending their arms, and we'd be doing similar things that we sometimes do in Pilates, but just trying to strengthen any muscles we had.
Okay.
And there were some people who were actually in a horizontal position, lying down until you could actually get to them and use things to prop them up.
Yeah.
So I was working there one day, and suddenly I heard the sound that I hadn't heard before, and it sounded to me like fireworks. And I got excited. This was something very exciting. We all like fireworks. And popped my head out of the physio corridor, because our physio room was basically just off the main corridor of the hospital. Mm-hmm. And so I popped my head out, and literally a bullet whizzes past my face. But literally, I could actually feel airflow or heat, or I don't know what it was, but literally it missed me by, I don't know, felt like centimeters.
That's so hectic. I've never heard you tell me this story, by the way. I did not know that you've ever been shot at.
It was really, really scary. Now, interesting is that in South Africa, people don't teach you what to do when there's a gunshot.
Yeah.
So now, as I was saying, once I came to my senses and realized that there wasn't a fireworks display for us, I heard the second bullet. I didn't see it necessarily whizzing past me, but it was literally right there.
Oh, my word.
Now, I mentioned that I had never heard a gun being fired that close to me. And
Yeah.
also, the guns I was used to hearing were either rifles or automatic weapons like AK-47s. I had never, ever heard a pistol being fired.
Sure, okay.
But that being said, that's just me.
Yeah.
All the other people in the hospital had, maybe not some of my physio friends, but most of the other people in the hospital had heard about this.
Yeah.
And so it almost became instinctive. And the weirdest thing for me was I walked into my room where all these paralyzed people, and they're all paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah.
And other than the person who was strapped on the standing frame and couldn't do anything, everyone else had disappeared.
Oh, my word.
They managed to, it was unbelievable. They managed to somehow throw themselves off and get off the beds and get onto the floor.
Sure.
So
That's so scary. Like, even, can you just imagine like not having like all use of your limbs and stuff and being
unbelievable.
so
and
terrified that,
hearing
like,
this,
yeah.
and already some of these people happened to be in the position they were in, quadriplegic, because of gunshots
sure,
and
yeah.
because of violence. And they were accustomed to this. I was horrified. I think I did what any other self-respecting physio would do. I think I screamed. And
Yeah, I would scream.
Out of somewhere, some physio assistant arrived and said, "What are we doing?" And so we quickly unstrapped the person that was on the bed because they would have been a major target.
Yeah.
And we didn't know who the shooters were targeting. We had no idea, and everyone just had to hide. So we managed to get this person off the standing frame, under the bed as well, and now I was looking for a place to hide.
Oh, my word.
And I was running up and down this corridor, and all the hiding places that I had in mind had all been taken.
Yeah.
So behind desks, everyone was already there. And the only thing I thought of was, I'm running to the toilet.
Yeah.
There was a toilet at the end of the passage, and I ran to the toilet. It felt like I was doing it in slow motion, but I was running as fast as I could, get to the toilet, and the toilet door is locked. And I start banging on the door, telling people, whoever it is, it's me, and open up. And this was a tiny little toilet, and there were two men in it.
Oh, my word.
One was a physio guy that I knew that I'd studied with that was working there, and the other one was a physiotherapy assistant. And I walked inside, and they helped me in and shut the door quickly and looked at me. And the one turns around and says to me, "Listen, Leah, if you need to wee, I'll understand." I'm thinking, wee? Like, wee? I had so much adrenaline. I thought, like, even with the adrenaline, I thought, I'm not pulling down my pants in front of you two guys.
Oh, my word.
I was shocked and horrified. Anyway, it must have taken a minute. I don't know. It felt like hours, and the shooting stopped. And everything went quiet.
Uh-huh.
And then we still, things like this happen, and you don't know when you can get out, when it's going to be safe. What if the man is out there and he's waiting for you to stick your head out, and then he's going to fire at you?
Yeah, that's so scary.
So one by one, we all started like crawling out of our hiding places, and things were completely quiet. And we got to the physio passage, and people were like kind of peeking their heads round the corner. And all we saw was one man lying on the floor, motionless, and blood surrounding him.
Oh, my word. Was it someone that was in the hospital?
It was someone that was in the hospital, and we then heard the story.
Okay.
So what actually had happened is this particular individual, the one that was now lying dead on the floor, had been involved in a robbery. He had actually been the perpetrator of the robbery. And he had been caught by the police, but in the process of catching him, they had shot at him and injured his hand.
Okay.
So what they needed to do, the protocol before they take you to prison, is they'll take you to the nearest hospital and let your wound be treated, and thereafter you'll go to prison. And there were no fancy systems like what you see in the movies where you like have the handcuff on and you handcuff the bed. They just put this guy in front of nurses and in front of doctors who were now going to treat his wound.
Yeah.
And this guy obviously knew that he is a bit of a sitting duck, that what's going to happen is straight after this, the police are taking him to prison.
Yeah.
And he saw this because they were chatting. You know, police in South Africa can often be quite casual.
Yeah,
they were
quite casual.
chatting to each other. They were chatting up the nurses. They were doing their own thing. And this guy saw an opportunity to escape. And he ran down the main corridor of the hospital. And the people shooting at him were police with their pistols.
Wow.
And they actually shot, eventually, we found out, 15 bullets, of which 9 of them made contact with him. So this man got shot 9 times.
Sure.
Now, I don't know what robbery he committed, whether he had committed an armed robbery, whether he had murdered anyone, but there he was. And this was, for me, and I didn't go close. I wasn't going to look. But it was the first time I had seen it. It was like watching CSI New York or watching the movies.
But in real life, that's so hectic.
In real life.
Sure.
In real life. So that was quite shocking. And after that, I remember it took forever to get into that room and start fishing people from under the beds and dragging them. And you have to check every person really, really carefully to see if they've been injured, because they've got
can't
no...
feel it.
Exactly. They've got no sensation. So it was quite a thing. And these poor people were frightened out of their wits. I've never been so scared.
I can just imagine.
Yes, totally. And also, I think the rules then must have been very different to what they are today. Because my understanding these days, I don't know if I've watched one too many crime series, but these days you actually see policemen screaming, "Stop, don't move, stop, halt, police." And the person keeps running, and I don't think they're allowed to fire at the person.
Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy.
Crazy, and I don't know what the rules were then. In fact, I don't even know if there were any rules then. People were doing whatever they wanted. However, the person that got shot was an African person, and the police shooting at him were also.
Okay.
So it was, anyway, very, very shocking. That was the first incident.
That is very shocking.
It was quite an experience. But by then, I think I had now learnt the sound of a pistol.
Okay, so you can add it to your list of gunshots that
I can add it to my list.
Recognize.
Exactly. And I wasn't going to mistake it for a firecracker again.
Yeah, America's Got Talent. We're coming for you.
That's what we're going to do. That's blindfold me and let people start shooting, and I'm going to guess what weapons they are. That's quite a talent.
Yeah.
And so the second story for me practically felt scarier, because I went to a police station, and you would think that of all the places to be, a police station should be one of the safest places.
You would think.
You would think. And funny enough, the incident was almost identical. The reason why I was at the police office is because in South Africa, all your policemen, and I don't know if it's all over the world, but in South Africa, your policemen function as a commissioner of oath. So what they would do is they can certify any document for you. So, for example, you will take your identification document or your taftatita and you make a photocopy of it.
Yeah.
And you'll go to the police station, and the police will stamp the copy and say that they've seen that it's a true copy of the original.
Yeah.
And you need that in many instances, and the police are so used to it.
Yes.
You know, they've got people behind the desk that sit there and kind of roll their eyes a little bit because they have to do quite a lot of this.
Yeah. A lot of paperwork.
A lot of paperwork. Once or twice, I've made friends with some policemen. They've let me do the stamping because I used to think it was fun. You know, you see it, and the stamping motion looks really fun.
That's funny.
And then they would sign there. That's when I had lots of documents.
Yeah.
Anyway, this time I only had one document, and I was waiting in the queue and waiting to have it signed.
Yeah.
And suddenly, while I was there and the person behind me was being really friendly and nice, I heard the shot again. And I knew immediately that this wasn't a firecracker, and the shot was coming from behind me. And now I realize that maybe other people in South Africa don't get training on what to do in shooting, but obviously police do.
Yes.
Because I was standing there and I heard the first shot and I thought, oh no.
Not again.
Not again. And then I kind of turned instinctively to see where the shot was coming from, which I couldn't see where it was coming from. All I could do is hear it. And then I heard the second shot. And I thought I turned again to tell the policewoman that what is going on. And suddenly there was nobody. The policewoman had disappeared. All the officers in there were gone. And all the other people that were waiting in the queue were gone. And I realized they had, behind the desk, there was like a door. a small door where people could go in, and everyone else had gone in, and they must have been hiding behind the desk. So suddenly I was in this police office on my own.
That's so scary.
And looking back now, I think, Leah, seriously, get with the program. What I should have done
Is get behind the desk with everyone else.
well, I couldn't, because by the time I got there, I was too exposed. The first thing I think you should do is hit the ground.
Yeah.
Be low. I was parading around there trying to find people. And again, a couple of minutes later, I think this time, I don't know, the previous time they offered me the ability to wee in the toilet. I think this time a little bit might have been trickling down my leg because I was so scared.
Yeah.
And next thing, the police came. They must have fired about 3 or 4 shots in total. And they came in again with the suspect.
Okay.
This time, as they were getting him out of the police van, because the police station has got a little holding cell in it. And you can be held there, I think, for up to 24 hours
Yes.
before they need to transport you to proper facilities.
Yeah.
And this man that had been shot at, these police weren't as efficient as the previous ones at Natalspread. They missed him completely, which was probably not a good thing because they could have hit me.
Yes.
They weren't really a good shot. The ones at Natalspread, I realized, aimed fairly well. And these guys, anyway,
That's so insane, though, that happened to you twice.
and this time, as they brought him in and they had handcuffed him, he was wailing. He was wailing and sobbing and crying. I've never seen a prisoner do that.
They must have been extra scary to witness.
In all the movies, they kind of look very stoic and they kind of think, oh, they got me finally. This one was screaming and crying. And I initially thought, okay, they've obviously hit him.
Yeah.
But there were no wounds on him. And they transported him into the cell. And that was, I must admit, extremely, extremely scary.
Yeah, and like very traumatizing.
Very, very traumatizing. So, Jo, do we have time for one more quick one?
Mom, for you, I have all the time in the world.
Okay. Well, then let me tell you. This one involves your dad.
Okay.
And there were no actual shots fired, but the way he came back home and described the incident, he was as white as a sheet. I don't think he would have survived the Natalspread experience or even the police experience. What happened with your dad, I don't know if you remember, Joe's grandfather lived on this huge property.
Yes.
And he lived by himself. And he had this kind of tiny little house on this absolutely massive property that this property had no security.
Yeah, who knows how many acres? I don't know.
It was acres and acres. And so what he used to do just to feel safe and feel like he could protect himself was he used to put a loaded gun between the cushions of the couch. And he did this so that when he's sitting by himself watching TV, if someone suddenly had to break in, he would be able to just slip his hand down and take the gun. Now, he lived by himself.
Yeah.
He was divorced, and he didn't even have a housekeeper coming in to clean for him.
Yeah.
So I would think that he's the only person in there.
Yes.
But on this one particular occasion, his other son had brought his grandson, as in your grandfather's grandson,
Yes.
your cousin, who was very young at the time. He must have been around about 4, and they needed to run some kind of an errand and had no one else to look after him. And they thought, we can just leave him with his grandfather.
Yeah.
And the grandfather had been looking after him in the beginning and spending some time with him. And then my ex-husband arrived because his dad had asked him to help him sign some papers.
Yeah.
So my ex-late father-in-law couldn't actually read and write really well.
Yes.
He had only managed to get through school, grade 2.
Sure.
And so he needed help, especially he had taught himself to read in the end, and he could write, but he would make lots of spelling mistakes.
Yes.
And so he needed someone to help him with official documents, to read through them and let him know exactly what he should be doing, what he should sign and what he shouldn't.
Yes.
So your dad arrived there, Jo, and now they were poring over these documents in the kitchen, which was open to the lounge where the couch was. And suddenly they weren't paying any attention to this 4-year-old
Yeah.
who was bored in that house. There weren't lots of toys for him there.
Kid-friendly.
It wasn't kid-friendly, and it wasn't designed to entertain kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, so while my ex was sitting with his father and looking at the document, he suddenly heard the little boy saying, bang, 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 bang. And he thought, okay, that's cute. That's fine. Little boys play. Bang, bang, bang. And he turned suddenly to have a look at this kid. And this kid had a gun pointed at your dad's head, Jo.
That's so scary.
The gun was fully loaded.
And probably didn't have like a safety
The
on.
safety was off, ready to be fired.
Oh, my
and this
word.
child was holding it. It was a pistol.
Sure.
And he was holding it with 2 hands. Lucky for your dad is that his little fingers were short enough that they couldn't actually reach the trigger in order to be able to pull it.
That's so scary.
I promise you, your dad came home, he was shaking. He was completely white.
Sure, I would have also been white and shaking.
As was I in all my incidents.
Yes.
Extremely.
That's also very hectic.
So,
sure. What a bunch of stories.
What a bunch of stories.
So what are some lessons that we can take away from these hectic stories, Mom?
Well, I think, firstly, this is kind of quite obvious that I probably wouldn't have survived the Wild West.
I don't think many people even did survive the Wild West, so you would have been one of many.
One of many. The second thing is that I think this talent of mine in recognizing gun sound is not really useful after all, and not something that I need to nurture.
Which, thank goodness for that.
And lastly, and probably more importantly, is for all of you guys out there, at the sound of any gunshot, immediately hit the floor and take cover.
Yeah, duck and cover.
Duck and cover. I think that's a very important thing. And on that note, let's talk about what we're grateful for.
Okay, do you want to start us off then?
Okay. Firstly, I'm grateful for small hands.
Me too.
Secondly, I think I'm grateful that I survived to tell this tale or these tales.
Yeah, of course.
I'm grateful your dad survived too.
Yeah, that too. And you know what? I'm also grateful that your experience with guns is mostly only auditory.
No, don't say only. I think I could do a bit of visual, but mainly auditory.
Mainly. I'm very grateful for that.
So on that note, once again, I'm really grateful for this podcast, and I'm grateful to all of you guys for listening.
Yes, as am I.
You keep us going. Please feel free to comment and let us know if there are things that you enjoy listening to, things that you don't, or anything you need to ask or find out.
And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can, if you're enjoying our podcast, if you haven't subscribed yet, why not? Go subscribe. We really appreciate it.
We do.
And it really does help us out. And on that note, we'll see you guys next week. And by see, I mean you'll hear us next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.